Tokeni, 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 twende, tumeitwa na Mwokozi. Bwana Yesu anatuita leo, tokeni twende, tokeni twende.
In the nearly 80 years since the first Mennonite missionaries arrived in Tanganyika on the shores of Lake Victoria and held the first worship service under this tree, the church has grown to approximately 50,000 members in nearly 400 congregations throughout Tanzania and Kenya. Several years ago, an Ethiopian Mennonite leader, Million Balete, made this statement: "Leadership training is the biggest single issue in the church in Africa today because of the rapid growth in the churches. In America and Europe, the problem is how to fill the churches. In Africa, the problem is how to properly care for the people who fill the churches." This is still true today. Growing in numbers and starting new churches continues to be a priority for East African Mennonite leaders. The churches in Dar es Salaam have adopted a plan to add 10 new churches and 2,000 members in the 3-year period beginning in 2010. This will double the size of the diocese. The Dodoma Diocese is presently 13 congregations, and they plan to add 15 new churches in the next 5 years. The church does not lack vision, and especially in urban areas, some of the leaders have higher education and experience in administration. They are employed in government, or education, or business, but they have identified a need for training in biblical and theological studies and pastoral leadership. One elder said to me, "We have leadership experience in government and business, but that is different from church leadership, which is based on biblical principles and has different goals." In smaller towns and rural areas, on the other hand, many of the people have only a primary school education, up to grade 8, and a few have completed secondary school. And there is also the need for biblical knowledge and training in church leadership skills. In Mwanza and surrounding region, there are presently 25 churches, and the leaders have identified 17 villages in the area where there is no church. They plan to form an evangelistic team to go to each village to evangelize, and when there is a group of believers, they will assign a lay pastor to nurture the group and organize a fellowship. African nations have described their challenges as poverty, ignorance, and disease. Or to say it in other words, the issues are economic, education, and health. The churches live and work in that setting and consider it their mission to respond to these issues as part of the gospel. It is following the example of Jesus. There is a shortage of resources in funding and expertise, so they work in partnership with government or with private agencies to fulfill the mission. Wherever they plan to do evangelism and start a church, there is also a plan to serve the community through education or health services or economic development. I visited the Arusha Mennonite Church, where they provide offices for the staff of Compassion International and their student adoption program. They also sponsor a preschool for local children. The question the bishops are asking is, where will we find leaders for the new churches? Their vision for outreach and expansion is impressive and inspiring, and the request for help in training leaders is a challenge to us to partner with them. 20 years ago, the Theological Education by Extension program gave the church a big boost by providing training for nearly all the lay pastors in the Shirati and Musoma areas. But with the departure of the missionaries, the program soon stopped operating because it depended on financial assistance for materials and transportation. The church's request for help is not to send people to do it for them, but to partner with them in a way that they can continue on after missionaries leave. It is not just to provide education for leaders, but to help the church build the capacity to carry on training programs that will meet the need for leaders in the years to come. The Mennonite Theological College in Eastern Africa is located near the town of Musoma on Lake Victoria. Its history goes back to the 1960s, when the existing Bible school was upgraded to a theological college curriculum and new buildings were built to house the program. It continued through the 70s, but ceased operating during the 1980s due to declining enrollment and problems in church leadership. It was reopened in the early 1990s and has continued to provide secondary level theological training to the present. In recent discussions, the staff and the board of directors are considering ways to strengthen the financial base of the college and to upgrade the program to meet the need for higher level training. Out of our discussions with the bishops, we have identified the need for training at 3 different levels. The first level is basic training in biblical knowledge and leadership skills. This is for lay leaders in local congregations and should be offered locally to persons who cannot leave home to attend a residential school. Many of these persons have a primary school education. The second level is advanced training for persons who have completed secondary school and will be pastors and other upper-level leaders. This level will be best provided at the residential program of Mennonite Theological College. The third level is in-service training for existing leaders, especially pastors and bishops, and for ongoing encouragement and enrichment. For this, special seminars and workshops can be planned with visiting resource persons. We are planning to spend the next 4 years of our lives in East Africa to work with Mennonite leaders in developing leadership training programs. They are asking for training that focuses on the needs of the church and its people, that is effective in helping leaders to minister to their particular situation, and that is sustainable in the local setting and economy. A priority will be to build capacity to enable the church to continue training using local resources and expertise. But it is also an opportunity to build bridges of cooperation and partnership across cultures and national boundaries. So we invite you to participate in what God is doing in East Africa. We recognize the spiritual dimension of this work of nurturing leaders in the growing churches, and prayer is an important part. We also acknowledge that there are material needs, funding for our travel, for our medical coverage, and for program expenses. Together, we can make a difference.
Tokeni twende, jamani tokeni wote. Tokeni twende, jamani tokeni.